Imagine you're a benevolent overlord, and your only goal is to maximize social welfare. In economics, this imaginary person is called the social planner. We've become equipped with the tools from the last two videos, which will allow us to think clearly about the social planner. We introduced the demand curve, which can tell us the quantity demanded at any price. And we introduced the supply curve, which also takes price and gives us quantity demanded. From the laws of supply and demand, when we increase the price, quantity supplied increases and quantity demanded decreases. The opposite is also true. And we found that both buyers and sellers have an incentive to move price towards equilibrium, where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied at the market price. In the last two videos, we introduced one way of evaluating how good the market is for buyers and sellers. Consumer surplus in pink was the value buyers didn't need to pay. An expenditure is how much buyers did pay to sellers in green. And the seller's producer surplus in yellow was the value sellers didn't have to pay from buyers' expenditure. And again, we'll talk more thoroughly about the theory of the firm in week 5. Total surplus is the sum of producer surplus and consumer surplus. And total surplus essentially measures the goodness of the market by capturing the extras not needed to be paid by buyers and sellers. Here is where you can think back to our conversation on specialization and trade from week 1. We're benefiting both sides, and by the amount represented by surplus, sometimes called welfare. But we can see that producer surplus and consumer surplus are in some sense at odds with each other. When price decreases, consumer surplus increases, but producer surplus decreases. When price increases, consumer surplus decreases, but producer surplus increases. Visually, it's relatively easy here to see that surplus at any price is the difference between willingness to pay and willingness to sell at every unit above the quantity exchanged. But how would the social planner maximize total surplus? Let's give you, the social planner, control over price. When price is high, we have an excess where sellers can't sell all they have at the price in the market. We lose some producer surplus from the smaller quantity exchanged because buyers are buying less from sellers. For sellers, producer surplus is more than compensated for by the higher prices. But we're losing consumer surplus from both the higher prices and the smaller quantity exchanged. We've also lost some of our total surplus. This loss in total surplus is what we call deadweight loss. From here, you probably can see that our job as a social planner is to minimize deadweight loss. Finally, let's look at when the prices are low, when we have a shortage, and buyers can't buy all they want at the price in the market. Sellers' producer surplus is lower from both a smaller quantity exchanged and a lower price. For buyers, the smaller quantity exchanged is offset by the lower price. So how should the social planner set prices? Well, taken as a whole, you as the social planner can conclude that maximizing welfare involves setting the price at equilibrium, since any increase or decrease lowers surplus. Here's the point where I want to offer some level of caution. This model is very specific. We'll introduce some variations to this model in the coming weeks. But here what we're doing is looking only at private goods with no externalities. But it's an amazing result. Incentives for buyers and sellers move prices and quantities to reach equilibrium in competitive markets. And this equilibrium maximizes welfare. Maximized welfare is what we call efficient, the property of a resource allocation maximizing total surplus for all members of society. It's always important to approach models with some skepticism, but it's worth a moment to just recognize how surprising this might seem. No one is trying to maximize welfare. It's maximized simply by individuals following their incentives in competitive private goods markets.